Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're completely blowing the dust off a history so ancient it literally predates humanity itself. We're going to explore the unseen world, an entire era of rise and total ruin that played out right here on our very own planet, way before the first human ever even took a bath. Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder who or what ruled the Earth before we got here? Because we're about to shatter some major preconceptions today. According to some incredibly deep historical and theological traditions, Earth wasn't just this empty rock waiting for mankind to show up. No way. It was once fully inhabited and completely ruled by these powerful beings made entirely of smokeless fire. Part 1: Earth before mankind. Now, what's really interesting about this is that these beings, known as the jinn, they weren't just wandering around like silent shepherds. We're talking about incredibly powerful, long-living kings. But the wild part is how their gifts were totally misused. You see, the jinn possessed these bodies made of fiery, weightless energy. They could turn invisible, literally fly across the skies, and even whisper directly into the hearts of other creatures. But instead of using all that amazing power to build a peaceful world, they descended into absolute corruption. They demanded false worship, built these massive idols, and really dove off the deep end into dark, forbidden magic. They enslaved weaker tribes and basically turned what was once a vibrant world into a total nightmare of oppression and constant bloodshed. Just take a look at this staggering number, 90 billion. To really wrap your head around the scale of this unseen civilization, well, traditional accounts say that for every single human being given free will, there were 9 jinns. So if humanity is sitting at around 10 billion today, the jinn population during their chaotic golden age could have easily hit 90 billion. Because they lived for centuries, sometimes even thousands of years, their tribes just multiplied incredibly fast, completely dominating the entire globe. Part 2: The Rise of Azazel. So during this terrifying era of chaos and bloodshed, God actually sent prophets down to the jinn to try and guide them back to peace. But tragically, they were all killed. However, right in the middle of all this darkness, one really unique character emerges: Azazel. While the rest of his people are just descending into absolute warfare, he consciously chooses extreme devotion. He spent his days and nights praying, fasting, and just weeping in prostration. He made a highly disciplined choice to be obedient, totally rejecting the rampant rebellion of everyone else around him. And this brilliantly illustrates his incredible rise in status. Tradition actually says he worshipped so much he became a teacher to the angels. Think about that. He was the only jinn ever to be elevated high enough to stand among the angels in the heavens. But as we'll see in just a moment, achieving that kind of unprecedented status and being revered by actual angels, well, that planted the very first deeply hidden seeds of pride right in his heart. Part 3: The Great Heavenly War. Eventually, the corruption down on Earth just reached a breaking point. God decrees that a massive, totally unstoppable army from the heavens is going to descend. And look at the absolute contrast between these two forces. On one side, you have the army of light, the angels. They're silent, precise, perfectly obedient, moving without even a fraction of hesitation. On the other side, the army of fire, the rebellious jinns. They're arrogant, totally chaotic, and foolishly relying on their broken magic. And guess who's right at the front? Leading the army of light against his own corrupt kind is Azazel, a being of fire himself, fighting fiercely to prove his ultimate loyalty. The clash was literally apocalyptic. I mean, mountains broke apart. Oceans were boiling from the sheer force of the conflict. The power of the angels was just absolute. The defeated jinns were completely scattered, banished to the deepest oceans and the most remote mountains, where, honestly, lore says they might still be hiding today. And standing victorious in the middle of all that rubble was Azazel. He won. But in that spectacular victory, he felt he had definitively proven his absolute, unquestionable superiority over everything else. Part 4: The Creation of Clay. Now, with the earth finally cleansed and quiet, God announces a profound new plan: the creation of a Khalifa, a successor. And when the angels hear this, they ask a truly fascinating question: will you place upon it one who causes corruption and sheds blood? Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand. This wasn't a rebellion against God. The angels were asking this out of genuine fear and past trauma. They literally just witnessed centuries of relentless jinn bloodshed. But God simply replies to them, "I know what you do not know." Let's move on and see how this builds. The actual creation of Adam was deeply symbolic. First, diverse soil was gathered from all across the earth. We're talking hard rocks, soft valley dirt, red, black, and white sand. All of this is mixed and molded into a hollow, silent clay form, just waiting for the divine command to breathe a soul into it. And those diverse soils, they perfectly represent the incredible future diversity of human temperaments, races, and characteristics that are eventually going to spread across the whole globe. But while this clay form is just lying there, completely lifeless, something incredibly happens. Azazel secretly approaches and starts inspecting this hollow shell. He actually walks into and around the empty clay body. And as he's mapping out its internal structure, he realizes it's weak. He sees the empty spaces that are eventually going to become hunger, anger, and haste. Right then and there, a sinister thought forms. He starts plotting exactly how he can exploit this fragile new creature, basically planning to run through its weaknesses like blood running through veins. Part 5. The Ultimate Test. Okay, the stage is totally set now. The heavens are watching. This is the absolute climax of the story, the moment the soul is finally breathed into the clay. As the divine soul enters Adam, it starts right at his head. His eyes open, and the very first thing he sees are the incredible fruits of paradise. And then, even before the soul fully reaches his legs, Adam tries to stand up, perfectly showing that deeply innate human trait of haste. Then he sneezes, and the absolute first words spoken by the very first human are, Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. And then comes the command that literally changes the trajectory of the entire universe forever. God commands the heavens, bow to Adam. I want you to pause and think about that. This was an absolute test of obedience, not just for the angels, but specifically a highly targeted test for Azazel. So the absolutely crucial point here is the immediate reaction. The angels, they bowed instantly. Their faces hit the ground in total, unhesitating obedience to God's command. And it's vital to note they weren't worshiping Adam here. They were perfectly submitting to God's will. But Azazel, he stood completely frozen. He was totally chained by his own hidden arrogance and this deeply rooted superiority complex. Centuries of intense, incredible worship just shattered into a million pieces in a single, defining moment of absolute pride. Part 6. The Fall of Shaitan. In the deafening silence of his refusal, the Creator directly asks Azazel, "What prevented you from bowing when I commanded you?" And Azazel's answer is just chilling. He says, "I am better than him. You created me from fire and him from clay." Wow, this right here is the very first act of elemental supremacy and arrogance in history. Azazel completely mistook his physical composition, being made of fire, a supposedly higher energy, for spiritual superiority over humble dirt. Let's walk through this incredibly tragic timeline. He starts off in an era of devotion, literally the most pious worshiper of his kind. Then he reaches the era of victory, commanding the angelic army itself. Then comes the ultimate test, and his arrogant refusal to bow. And finally, the fall. He is instantly stripped of his angelic beauty and banished, renamed Iblis, the accursed. And you know what the true tragedy is? He could have repented right then and there, but instead, he made the choice to worship his own ego instead of God. But right before being totally cast out, Iblis makes this terrifying final request. He actually asks for a delay until Judgment Day, which God grants. And armed with that time, he makes a chilling vow. He promises to attack humanity from the front, from the back, from the right, and from the left. He swears to exploit those very weaknesses he saw in the hollow clay, vowing to prove that humans are ungrateful, weak, and unworthy by constantly ambushing us from all four directions. He promised to surround us from all four sides, and that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. Are we actually paying attention to his invisible war? Because every single day, in our moments of anger, our daily rush, and our hidden pride, that ancient battle of fire and clay is still happening. The real question you have to ask yourself is, in the unseen war raging around you right now, who is really winning?